My name is Andrew Curry. Some of you may know me, many of you will not. I've been invited once again to be the MC of this event from last year. I presume that has something to do with my pricing, but maybe the quality of my performance as well. It's hard to say. Either way, I want to make you welcome. The word I heard most often in my various travels to Lebanon is welcome. Welcome, welcome. People always made me welcome. I want to welcome you if you've just come for a fantastic feed and a drink, because we've got fantastic food and drink this evening. I want to welcome you if you want to come and show your support for the efforts and the work of the Australian Lebanon Foundation. If you've just come because one of your friends dragged you along, you are 100% welcome. If you've had a long week and you're desperate for a quality glass of Lebanese wine, you are welcome. No matter why you're here, we're very pleased that you're here. And I think what we have in this room are people who are internationalists or citizens of the world, people who take a very strong interest in the affairs of one country without ever being disloyal to another one. So over the course of the evening, you'll have great company, great food and wine, we've established that, but you'll also leave this dinner smarter than you are right now. For some of the guests I know that's quite a big ask, because there's some bright people in the room, but we are going to be informed by some excellent guests, two of them in person. I might acknowledge right now Ziad Sankari, who's in the room. Please make him very welcome, a special guest. I'll explain more of him later on. Returning in glory, Anthony Rahayel. It's very pleased to have Anthony here again. And later on, by video link from Jordan, we will be hearing from the one and only Talal Abu Ghazaleh. So it's an excellent array of intelligence to be shared with us this evening. I'll tell you what not to expect. There won't be an auction. There won't be a raffle. There won't be a silent auction. There will not be occasions where I'm pestering you for money. I've done plenty of events where that happens, and there's always a good reason for it, but tonight we are just here to celebrate the achievements of this organisation and to celebrate education, intelligence and sharing ideas around the world. The other thing there was going to be dancing, but we saw the Prime Minister dancing in the Pacific today and we thought that's a really bad idea, so we've cancelled that. I'm glad somebody else is up on current affairs. I might get off the stage in the next couple of seconds. Folks, the committee that runs the Australia-Lebanon Foundation over the course of a year expands and shrinks. There's Zoom meetings with 20 people on them and Zoom meetings with 3 people on them, but always there is very strong leadership and very clear direction. And one of the people absolutely at the forefront of leading this organisation is Fadi Hussain, and she's going to speak to us right now, our patron. Please make her welcome.
Good evening, honoured guests and dear friends. For the past 20 years, the ALF has been steadfast in its mission to foster higher learning so that our young students can lead a life worth living. The ALF desires to expand minds and open hearts to God's miracles of life, of family, of opportunity, and of service. Since starting the ALF in 2004, we have known 7 Prime Ministers. Since then, 2 billion people have been born on this planet. A lot has changed. More will change even faster. And your anxiety, dear students, about your future is perhaps more intense than what we felt when we were your age. Although we celebrate innovation, we hope that certain principles never change, like the value we place on family and love of community. In 20 years, we have hosted countless events to learn about business, health, education, art, music, politics and technology in order to maintain strong roots and flexible branches. The roots refer to our foundations as a community that values citizenship. To be a good citizen means to engage and to share. To be a great citizen means to participate and to give. To be an excellent citizen means to sacrifice and invest in other people's children, so everyone that benefits, so that a country becomes a society, that becomes a community, that becomes a neighborhood. Sadly, the blessings we enjoy down under have led to one negative feature, and that is we lack a sense of urgency. Our great life here has made our society low. Tonight, dear students, I urge you to ignite up your passions and inflame your determination, and clean out your rooms and mind and junk and bad habits, and start tonight with laser-sharp focus on your studies. Even though you might switch degrees and find new interests, you must embrace the now with a sense of urgency, with a level of emergency to take this life, this opportunity, this blessing earnestly. Australia is still a young nation. Your ancestors in Lebanon trace a family tree back 12,000 years. They are cheering you on. They are proud of you. They need you to respect their sacrifices and continue the great Lebanese traditions of innovation, exploration, and dedication. Here in Sydney, as Australians with a Lebanese connection, as Australians with the Lebanese Foundation, I wish you every blessing.
You can see with the clarity of Fadia's communication and thoughts that we're very well led in history, and we're very well led right now. Neither Fadia nor Dumat Azar are interested in me giving them long introductions explaining their various qualifications, but their qualifications are extensive, and their understanding of the importance of education, their own educational jerseys are impressive in their own right. Please welcome our sympathetic, charismatic and impressive leader, Dr. Dumat Azar.
Welcome everyone, ahlan wa sahlan. It brings me joy to see so many friendly faces here this evening. I warmly welcome those friends of the Australia-Lebanon Foundation returning to us having previously attended these functions, and an especially warm welcome to those of you visiting us for the first time tonight. Since we last met in this hallowed hall, our planet has hurtled around the sun once, and in that time we have witnessed joy, and yet we continue to hear the tumultuous cries from those in faraway shores. As the book of Ecclesiastes once said, there is nothing new under the sun. Well, one thing that is certainly not new under the sun is the ALF's commitment to wielding the weapon of education against all that is wrong with the world. Some of you might recall my report to you last year regarding the adverse outcomes on childhood education from the variety of cruel challenges thrust upon the Lebanese population relating to the pandemic, political corruption and economic turmoil. The ALF sought to help because although our primary mission is to strengthen academic ties between the University of Sydney and academic institutions in Lebanon, without children reading, there will be no academic institutions in Lebanon, or at least no good ones, where people are free to think, to express and to exchange ideas, to agree and to respectfully disagree with other educated people who understand the power of education for the common good. Some of you may also recall that in response to these challenges in Lebanon, I decided to partner the ALF with a wonderful non-government organisation known as Room to Read, who recently commenced an ambitious literacy program for kids in Lebanon, where over 1 million children suffered from lengthy and significant school closures over the past couple of years, and where tens of thousands of children in 2nd and 3rd grade are reading at a kindergarten level. Room to Read aimed to open 50 non-formal education centre libraries, to distribute 100,000 books, and to conduct reading research for learning in Arabic in order to get kids who have poor access into the public school system. I'm delighted to welcome tonight the Associate Director of Room to Read, Janelle Prescott. Janelle, the ALF is proud of the work being done by Room to Read in Lebanon, and we are proud to support that work. Another good friend of the ALF is eCove, our event sponsor for the second consecutive year, headed by Bassem Aflaq. Both Bassem and his wife Rita have been strong advocates of the work of Room to Read both in Lebanon and elsewhere, and for that, Bassem and Rita, the ALF thanks you. Speaking of friends of the ALF, also present tonight is Anthony Rahayel. Now, when Anthony was last in Sydney a few short months ago, he visited me in the operating theatre, where, other than interviewing me whilst I performed eye surgery for his immensely popular YouTube channel, he also helped the ALF spread the word about Room to Read's work in Lebanon. And for that, Anthony, I thank you. Now, at that time, I reported to Anthony and to his viewers that Room to Read had already reached 6,000 children in Lebanon, which is a wonderful outcome for those kids, for their family and for the wider Lebanese community. I'm glad to report that since then that number has grown to over 15,000 children reached by Room to Read, and many tens of thousands of books have been distributed to those kids who are being taught to read by locally trained professionals. Room to Read's project goal for 2024 is to open a further 35 libraries across Lebanon, adding to the 15 already up and running. The positive impact of such work is almost immeasurable, and it echoes the thoughts of another time and another place, namely the middle of the 19th century and the United States of America, where a man named Frederick Douglass, a black man born into slavery, learned the alphabet at the age of 12 years. He then escaped slavery, taught himself to read and write, eventually becoming one of the most important American social reformers, abolitionists, writers, orators, and statesmen. And he said that once you learn to read, you will be forever free. Now, Frederick Douglass was someone who was explicitly forbidden from reading. So he appreciated the inherent freedom in learning to read and the access that it provided during chattel slavery in the United States. And he became one of the most important leaders of the movement for African American civil rights in the 19th century. Now, kids in Lebanon who cannot read are not doing so because they are explicitly forbidden to do so. But the rate of illiteracy does not care for its antecedent causes. If we can show some support to Room to Read, we can make a huge difference to those in need. Now, tonight, we are also here to celebrate victories, and each and every one of our scholarship recipients is cause for celebration. Their successes were not created in a vacuum, but with help from others. And it is in that spirit that we can demonstrate the strength required to make a tangible difference to those kids in Lebanon who would dream of one day stepping up onto a stage like this. Thank you, and have a good evening.
Sometimes you meet people who are technically very good but don't have a heart. And then you meet people who have great hearts and they're not technically adept, but great people and great things can be achieved when you meet someone who has enormous technical skill but also doesn't just have a heart, but works with the heart. Works. Thank you, folks. This is an exam room, so I want exam conditions, please. Thank you. Sometimes you meet somebody who's chosen to marry the high-tech engineering with the organ that all of us share that pumps blood around our chest. Our next speaker is a graduate of the Lebanese American University, a Fulbright scholar, a man whose double master's studies in electrical engineering and biomedical science led him on a journey through business and education, passing through many countries in the world, including the United States and Lebanon. Before I introduce him to the stage, I believe we have a video of our next guest in a rather spectacular setting, so I direct your attention towards the screen.
We want to call pioneers like Ziad Sankari. Where's Ziad? There he is right next to him. When he was 17, he lost his father to a heart. And Ziad first came to the United States to study on Fulbright. Then through one of our science and technology competitions, he earned seed funding to develop his innovation, which is a heart monitoring technology that clips your waist. Today, he's improving the way
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank the ALF, the president of the ALF, Professor Fabia, and the entire guests today for giving me the opportunity to be with you here tonight. This is my very first time in Australia, particularly in Sydney, Australia. I just flew in this morning from the United States, and I got here thinking that I speak very good English. So I walked into a shop and I ordered my typical Americano. And everybody seemed to be giggling and looked at me and said, "Where are you from?" I was like, did I say something wrong? Turns out they call it here long black. In my afternoon, my espresso was also giggled at. Turns out it's a short black in here. So the point is, no matter how much we think we know, there is always a lot for us to learn. And this is, in my opinion, what makes a difference in this world. We continue to learn and grow. Now imagine you lived in the Dark Ages, in the medieval ages, and you had a headache. You went to a doctor. At that time, it was very typical that the doctor would pull out something, a tool called the Zodiac Man, to treat you and to diagnose you. Basically, the Zodiac Man would look at the moon today and the positioning with which zodiac sign you have and determine what you have to do with your headache or what procedure you would do. Today, scientists and medical doctors would look at that as groundless science. They would dismiss it, and they would think we have learned a lot today. But as a matter of fact, if you go to a doctor, take a daughter or a son to a doctor complaining about a fever, at some point they might tell you it's just a virus. There are thousands of viruses, but we don't know which virus it is. We still don't know why certain people get Alzheimer's and others don't. We still don't know why certain people get diabetes in their 30s, others live their whole life without getting diabetic exposure. So believe it or not, I think we're still living in the dark ages of knowledge. Now imagine you move 30 or 40 years down the line. At that point, there is so much knowledge and technology that we are witnessing the paradigm shift for today that's going to make the whole world different. They're going to look back at our time that we live in today and think that we were living in the dark ages. So I am very excited about that, and I'm today here to talk to you very briefly about the number one cause of death, which is cardiac disease. Cardiac disease, as you may know, is the number one cause of death in the world. It is actually the reason why 1 out of 3 people die around the world. Now, there are so many reasons why people have cardiac disease. Some of it is known, some of it is not. The risk factors are known, but I'm here today to tell you about the different kind of examples of heart disease. So there are coronary heart disease that, as you can see on the slides, the arteries become full of plaque and cholesterol. There are other types of heart disease that are related to how the heart works, how the heart beats, too fast, too slow, irregular, regular. There are other heart diseases that are caused by, for example, functional problems, when the actual muscle of the heart doesn't work as well. And there are kind of heart diseases that are related to the valves that connect the chambers of the heart together, if you remember from high school biology. But the focus is on how do we end up avoiding the number one cause of death. 60,000 deaths around the world, 1/3 of that is caused by heart disease. There are obviously many causes of complications of heart disease. Unmanaged blood pressure, unmanaged diabetes, your lifestyle, do you exercise or not? What do you eat? So what do you choose on your table today to eat? What do you select? How do you select your lifestyle to be? But what really matters today is that a lot of us know the basics, but we do not have the full power to make sense of that data. And this is where I believe the paradigm shift is happening. COVID has made a big impact on heart disease. There are 7 to 8 folds increase in heart disease because of COVID, but what I really want to focus on is how to diagnose heart disease. Obviously, you can start with the basics. You go to your doctor regularly, blood test. If you have a symptom, you probably have a heart signal collected known as EKG or electrocardiogram. There is long-term monitoring. If we don't find your problem, you still complain about symptoms, we would actually order an echocardiography, ultrasound. We would, if we don't find any problems still and you still complain about a symptom like palpitation or shortness of breath, we would take you to a stress test where you jump or jog on a treadmill trying to find out the problem. Catheterization, there's genetic testing. But it gets interesting when you start having symptoms and you don't know what the problem is. And this is what the company that I built, Cardiodiagnostics, focuses on. We focus on finding people with heart disease early on. We diagnose them with great technology. Basically, the technology we use is what President Barack Obama recognized our innovation in. We were the first to bring the industry to the cloud, introduce artificial intelligence, and make a change in the way that cardiac disease is monitored. Very briefly, what we do is we put a patch on you, we let you go back, you can exercise, drive a bike like those couples in the picture, go on about your daily life, but we have every heartbeat monitored. We analyze it, and we know what the problem is immediately, and we alert your doctors for it. So this technology is mostly available in the United States and Europe, and we've been expanding in other places as well. But what really matters here is the paradigm shift I talked about earlier. Remember when we said that today we live in the dark ages of medicine? This is where the paradigm shift that's happening today. Artificial intelligence is making a big difference in how we respond to diseases around the world, and it is moving at the speed of light. Today, there's so much data. We collect so much data from all of you, and you are able to make use of that data to extend your life and to live a longer and healthier life with the help of technologies. Today, the heart beats more than 100,000 times a day, and each heartbeat tells us something about you. We can gather all that information and make the best use out of it. So this is what we're focusing on, and there are so many companies around the world and so many research groups around the world that are focused on making a difference. So I invite you to make the best use of the technology out there, to adopt new technologies, to understand your bodies, to become more involved with your own self and with your own physical experience so that you live a longer and healthier life. And I'm wishing you from this beautiful stage a wonderful evening, and thank you very much for the opportunity of being here.
Folks, I'm going to take a sidestep out of the program to acknowledge somebody who the ALF has decided needs to be acknowledged, honoured, and have his achievements more brought to the attention of this organisation in this room, and that's a gentleman called Chana Chaka, a name known to many of you. Spontaneous round of applause, not everybody gets that. Who spent 14 years serving this state in our upper house, who took on 4 ministries over that period. I'm led to believe he's the first Lebanese Liberal member of the Parliament. The Kaddis are the National Party. We don't have to talk about the Kaddis, do we? No, exactly. But again, a gentleman who's not going to talk his own book, which is a shame because he'd have stories to tell which could go for ages, I'm sure.
Thank you, everyone. I really had no idea. Professor Fadia, this is very generous of you. You know that you're a very dear friend, you're my sister, and you do so much for the community. This is your night, this is the night of the students, so thank you so much for sharing it with me. There are so many of you here to acknowledge, so many great friends, supporters. I'm a bit worried that if I start to mention any, I'll get myself in trouble. Obviously, I have to mention my beautiful Sayyidina. Thank you, Sayyidina, for all of your blessings. Our wonderful Consul General, thank you, who is also a brother, and so many of you. It'd be remiss if I don't mention my beautiful wife and my 2 beautiful daughters, 2 of my 2 beautiful daughters who are sitting here today with us. For the young people here today, for all of the students, and my two daughters are both university students doing different degrees, can I say this to you? And it's been mentioned by our earlier speakers, mentioned by our doctor earlier. For me in life, I've had three absolute passions that I learned from my late mother. A passion of loving God, a passion of loving my family, and a passion of loving my community. And I believe that when you give as much as you can for God, for your family, for the community, the rewards are enormous. And so I encourage each of our young people today, surround yourself by some great mentors like Professor Fadia, surround yourself by good friends, love your God, love your family, love your community, and give as much as you can. You will never regret it, and it will always, always come back in huge abundance. To everyone, thank you so much. Professor Fadia, I love you. Thank you.
We have another guest to speak to us now. As we enjoy beautiful food, it's appropriate we get another guest who is variously known. He prefers to be called Lebanon's lover, but he's also called the Manouche guy. A man whose own education and career is in dentistry, which could explain why he has an embargo against garlic and onions. A man who's used food as a passport, as a communication vehicle, as a way to showcase the Middle East's particular attitude to hospitality and welcome. Smells, colours, flavours, and his own particular communication style, all the way from Ashrafia, building a bridge around the world. Please welcome Anthony Rahayel.
So every time I stand in front of you, I say it's going to be easier than the year before, but whoa. Thank you so much for having me again. Thank you, the ALF. Thank you for believing in me and giving me the opportunity to come again for the second year in a row. Thank you all of you Lebanese. Thank you for being Lebanese. Thank you for welcoming me and letting me feel I'm home. People ask me, why do you come back to Australia again and again? I just feel home. I feel home, I feel loved, I feel welcomed, and thank you so much for everything you've been doing for me personally and definitely for Lebanon without you knowing. And thank you so much, Professor Hussein. Thank you for all the support and believing in what I do. If you don't know, Professor Hussein was my dean at university for long 5 years when I graduated in the year 2005 as a dental surgeon, and after that I took 4 specialties ongoing for 9 years and worked in the field for 11 years until I decided to leave everything for one major thing called Lebanon. And why Lebanon? So today we're going to talk about probably the less known things about Lebanon and what makes you special, what makes you unique, what makes you the greatest people in the world, and that is Lebanon. We're going to talk about why this amazing country, one of the smallest in the world, smaller than Sydney itself. Lebanon is 10,452 square kilometers. Sydney is 12,000. Lebanon is 7 times smaller than Tasmania and 720 times smaller than Australia. And yet, it has lots of things to give, lots of things to offer. And if you put it into perspective, I'm going to talk about it in the upcoming minutes, Lebanon has been one of the major countries that built up the world we know today in lots of things, of which the wood, of which the biodiversity, the habits, and so on and so forth. And we're going to go into that in a bit. Did you know that there are more than 16 civilizations that occupied Lebanon? And you ask ourselves, why Lebanon? What did they want of Lebanon? Some say 16, some say more. So why the 16 civilizations chose Lebanon? And that little small country on the Mediterranean, door to the east, with everything we have to offer. Did you know that we can, in Lebanon, have 40 different countries in one? We have 40 different habitats in one. And Lebanon has more than 90 herbs and plants and trees that are only for Lebanon. And that means a lot, and that takes us into that famous word we're going to hear again called resilience. So we Lebanese are resilient due to who we are, what we did. Lebanon started more than 6,000 or 7,000 years ago in a beautiful piece of land, and that small little country had a lot to offer. The Romans came in, the Ottomans continued, and lots of people decided to make it their home. And we ask ourselves, why did the Romans choose Lebanon? Of which many things. Romans chose Lebanon because not only they chose it, did you know that 7 of the big emperors were Phoenicians? And they chose that little land because of the water, because of the roads, because of everything that made it a center of their empire. And from Lebanon, they could take the water and the vegetables and create all the routes that lead to Rome, and of which made the Silk Road easier to them and for their empire. You know the things that are only in Lebanon? Let me start. Lebanon has 16 rivers, of which 16 perennial rivers, and today we have 40. It's the only country in the Middle East that has that amount of water. It's the only country in the Middle East that has snow around 6 months a year and 12 months a year on the higher level, that is 3,089 meters. It has definitely the highest peak, one of the only country you can ski in. But most importantly, let's go back to the origins. It's the mother of law. It's the city of law. Beirut is the city of law, the country that invented law. And not only that, the alphabet. We were talking a little bit earlier about the alphabet and what made it important. You know, the alphabet is not only about us writing or communicating. It's about living the moment in a book. So when you read your book, you live the moment. You can experience the story itself. So that creation of the alphabet is the greatest invention of humankind, of mankind, that started in Biblos. And today we read, we feel, we enjoy, we sense. We can read a book probably 100 years ago and feel the moment and enjoy it. And that is what made the alphabet. Started in Biblos, definitely, which gave the name to the Bible. So if you remember all of these things and take a step back to, okay, all of this happened in that small little land called Lebanon. So what happens today during our long 7,000 history is nothing. Problems might happen, of course. We might have some little tiny things, I would call them. Yes, definitely. But don't forget what happened before and how important we were in creating and shaping what the world is today. And that takes us a step back to remember why are we special and why are we Lebanese and what makes the Lebanese what a Lebanese is. We've been here, we've been in Australia, in America, in Brazil, and all around the world. And we've been very resilient, very successful. We've made it in the highest of the government seats and probably the biggest companies. Why? Because it started in that little country in Lebanon with all what this country can offer. I will continue and tell you about lots of things and move to biodiversity. Let's talk about the cedar. What we know about the cedar is definitely our flag, but it's much more than that. That cedar is the greatest and biggest tree and the most majestic tree in history. It's one of the oldest. We have trees that are today 4,000 or 5,000 or 6,000 years old, but it represents who we truly are. That tree that is wide, big, protects the trees behind it, does not keep space for all the trees around, and most importantly, keeps space for all the vegetation to go under it. So that tree that represents us in a way or another is us, is what we are, how we act, how we react, how we think with each other, how we should support each other, how we take it to the next level. But sometimes we forget, and we tend to forget, that it's not only about the cedar tree. Did you hear about the juniper tree that is not as famous as the cedar tree, but has a very important part of who we are? Cedar trees go up to 2,900. So imagine a country without trees after 2,900. Here comes the juniper tree, even older. Not as good looking as the cedar tree, but a very old tree that has covered our mountains from 2,900 all the way up to 3,100 and can go even up and higher and higher. And that juniper tree is very important to think about and look at, again, that resilience and it fights all the weather and the high wind, and we forget to talk about it. Lebanon the country of four seasons, has also something very important, the olive tree. It's not only about the olive oil we all enjoy and import from Lebanon, but did you know that there are 2 villages in Lebanon that claim to have the oldest olive trees on earth? I would mention Kaukaba down south, that claims to have 4,000 olive trees where Jesus Christ passed by and blessed. Up north in Pshali, they also have 4,000-year-old olive trees. And when I'm saying olive trees, they are around 9, 10, 15 meter diameter sometimes. And the story tells that they are the olive trees of Moses. So looking at these, imagine how old and how important our vegetation is. I'm going to open a parenthesis and tell you the story how Lebanon started the relation with Australia in 1860. Look when. In 1860, trees have been imported from Australia. We do not have eucalyptus tree, but Australia has 2,000 varieties. So they have been imported from Australia in 1860 to be planted all across Lebanon and to suck all the water during the Ottoman years and to create usable lands from wetlands. So if today, definitely you hear about a village or a city called Daura or Karantina or Ta'nayil, all of these have been planted with eucalyptus trees from Australia back then to suck all the water and become habitable. Because during these days, the Ottomans gave the lands for people and said they are unlivable, so do whatever you want to do with them. And Lebanese, with the resilience, tried and found ways which led to planting trees that we do not have, and made something important out of it. From that, I will take the discussion to the latest years. In around 1850s, in the late 1800s, came, and we all know about it, the mulberry tree, shajarat al-tut. Mulberry tree or shajarat al-tut made something very important and changed the Lebanon we know today. Have you asked ourselves why do we speak French and why do we speak international languages, and what made the Lebanese international? So in around 1850s, 1860s, the mulberry tree was imported from Lyon, and it changed the face of Lebanon. And that mulberry tree was planted all across. It has been the symbol of all the houses in Lebanon, and where we definitely hear the المثل بيقول شروال بيك معلق على شجرة التوتة, and everyone that forgets his roots goes back to the original Lebanese ما تنسى شروالك وين معلق. So that juniper tree, that mulberry tree was planted all across Lebanon, and here started the years of the silk export from Lebanon, which made 40% of the export of Lebanon to all around the world. We were taught French. We started traveling, we exported. The railways were built in Lebanon, and all that richness and the money started happening. And this part of history made Lebanese go all across and start building in Brazil and America and Australia and so on. Sometimes we always say the biggest Lebanese community is in Brazil, probably. But the most active Lebanese community is definitely in Australia. Out of all my travels around the world, from Australia to America to Canada to all across, and I've been traveling around 250 days a year, I can tell you that whenever I discover Lebanon, it's in Australia. Where I see habits is in Australia. Traditions preserved, food preserved, connection with Lebanon and connection with the roots happens in Australia, and this is amazing. And probably it started back then, during those years where Lebanese have left everything and said, we're going to search for a better future without forgetting who we truly are and the origins of our country. I can continue and tell you about all the miracles that happen, and how many times Lebanon has been mentioned in the Bible, and how important things happen, and the Roman temples, of which you know Baalbek, but there are more than 15 temples in Lebanon, of which I can name Niha and Hardin and Anjar and Beirut and others, and Jbeil and Tripoli. The three biggest stones in the world are found in Lebanon, in Baalbek. So imagine how important things are, and what makes Lebanon what Lebanon is today. Resilience. Everything that happens is about resilience. It's about planting. 80% of Lebanon is prepared for plantation by our ancestors. They never left. They never wanted to leave. The Lebanese goat, that black, ugly Lebanese goat, stays in Lebanon and goes all across the mountains to eat and continue. The cedar tree, despite everything, goes up and opens up for it to continue. And that resilience continues ongoing through the ages. You expect me to talk about food, so definitely I'm going to tell you some little stories about your food and why food is part of the culture. And it's not something we just eat and continue and move on. Have you ever wondered why do we eat kibbenayeh? Have you ever asked yourself why do we eat raw almonds or generic raw prunes? So during the Ottoman years, for 400 years of occupation, Lebanese could not or were not allowed to light a fire. So this is where kibbenayeh was invented or created in Wadi al-Nabin. And after that, the Ottomans had a very high tax be paid on fruits and vegetables. So the Lebanese taught themselves or learned how to eat raw almonds, and no one else eats raw almonds, or lows, or generic, or the raw prunes. So all of these are part of who we truly are, and the food is part of that culture. أهلا وسهلا، تفضل، شربت قهوتك، تفضلوا على القهوة، شيل طعم طيبين، كول, and so on of little things that are very important. That table of sharing, of generosity, of food, that remind us who we truly are every single day of our life. My journey started in 2012 after leaving everything for Lebanon, and I asked myself, why am I doing that? It's because someone has to promote Lebanon. Someone has to tell you the truth about Lebanon. Every person I meet on all my journeys knows about Lebanon what the news tells you about Lebanon. Is it that bad? No. Are people dying in Lebanon? Definitely no. Are people living in Lebanon? There are the two extremes. And yet I decided to stay in Lebanon, my family and I'm super enjoying it with my friends and all the team that is doing great jobs in Lebanon. So accordingly, someone has to show you Lebanon, the real Lebanon, your village, the happenings, the life, and everything is happening over there. The Lebanese DNA is something you cannot explain. I'm trying to explain, I'm trying to write a book about it, trying to understand how it happens. I've met people, first generation or second generation, that have not been born in Lebanon. Probably sometimes the father is not Lebanese or the mother is not Lebanese. And I come to them and said, how do you identify yourself? And the answer is, I am Lebanese, definitely. So what makes us Lebanese? What runs in this blood? What makes this Lebanon in us so special and so exceptional? Today the call to action is, do not forget who we are, who we truly are, how important we are, that what do I say? Ahramet Giza, or the pyramids of Giza, have been built because of our cedar trees. The Solomon Temple has been built because of our cedar trees. Lebanon and Phoenicia before that has had an amazing, very important part in shaping the world we are living in today, and let's not forget about that. Let's not forget why are we special, because of our heritage and our roots, and this journey continues ongoing. I would love to see you again and again, every single year, to share, to discuss, to talk, to share all of these ideas, to remind you of that amazing Lebanon, to remind you of the success stories of Lebanese that are all across, to remind you of Gibran Khalil Gibran, who is the most quoted poet in all weddings and funerals around the world, to remind you about Shadi Malik and all the people that are very important and make a huge difference. And remember that the success stories I'm searching for all across the globe are definitely here in this room and everywhere around the world. So we can all unite together, build a better future, and remember, from Lebanon to the world, 16 million today, and ongoing to be probably 20 million.
And whose businesses are present literally all over the world. He is the first person outside of G8 country to be put in the IP Hall of Fame. He has chaired United Nations committees on technology. He's a senator in Jordan, and he's been awarded the Legion of Honour by the French Republic. These are exceptional and unusual qualifications. There might be nobody in the world who knows more about intellectual property than our first guest. I could go on forever, but we are extremely pleased on behalf of the Australian Lebanon Foundation to welcome via Zoom from Jordan, His Excellency Talal Ghazaleh.
Can you hear me? Okay. I'm delighted to join you. And it's a very special honor for me to be part of this event. And I would like to make a very brief statement. And if you would like me to answer any questions, I will stand ready to that. I have been predicting that this world we live in of no order and no leadership is unacceptable and unusual in terms of historic governance of the world. We cannot continue to have a superpower who is naturally has the right to be insisting on continuing to be the superpower as it has been, which is the US of America, and we thank her for her leadership for almost a century. Now this leadership is challenged by another superpower, China, who thinks also that it is only fair for her to join this global leadership effort. Now, this has to come to an end, and this era where we have all international organizations practically crippled and unable to take any resolutions or any action because of the wonderful system of veto power. 5 countries of the world dominate the world through the veto power, and any one country can stop any resolution, which is what is happening now. Therefore, something must happen, and that was predicted in '85 when I had the chance to attend a meeting by the National Science Academy in Washington, and where the theme of the seminar was where will the US be in 2020, and the conclusions, one of them was that the world will face a challenge by the Chinese to challenge the leadership of the world. Many of the US presidents have already announced in public that China represents a serious challenge to their role in the world and to their natural other leadership attributes. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, this is a situation where there is a transition of no world order. There is not one system that is being applied or rule or standard applied fairly and harmoniously throughout the world, and there is no superpower that can dictate everything to every country of the world. We were happy to be dictated to by the superpowers, but now there is no superpower. There is, as I said, a complete crippling of authority in the world. There is no world order, there is no world superpower. So what is going to happen? There has been a lot of efforts, and I was part of our to try to find some solution to these challenges and bring some kind of approach or solution or proposal, but everything has failed because the dispute is very deep, very serious, and it cannot be resolved by any normal meeting. So something has to happen, and that's why I said we are waiting for a day when there is military friction, because the war has already started, either by proxy like we have in Ukraine and in Europe, or like in Palestine, but the actual military conflict between the two superpowers is yet to happen. And it is bound to happen, because those superpowers need to sit down, and the only way to sit down is to have this conflict, because all wars, bilateral, regional, and global, have ended by meeting around the table. We know this. Everything has to be settled eventually through a meeting between the parties. The two parties will not sit down until this happens under a certain setup, which I assume will be by the United Nations, to call for a very special meeting once the conflict. And it is not a war like we have seen in the World War I war or World War II. The Third World War will not be the same. We live in a virtual world, and like everything is going online, this war will be online. If you targets to be hit by different sources on the earth and responding to them similarly, because nobody can imagine that the US will try to invade China or that China will invade the US, but it will be a war by online. So it will be a very short war, and it depends on how damaging it is going to be. It is expected that the parties will have to sit down and realize that there is no other option. When that happens, I think there will be a meeting. As a result of the meeting, we will have a new governance structure which will work together on building a new governance system. We don't need just a governance structure. We need rules and systems and policies, like after the World War II, where we had all the global organizations from the World Bank, IMF, the United Nations, the World Trade Organization, UN, all various agencies. A new system of governance of the world will have to develop, and it has been announced very vocally that what has been established at the end of World War II does not apply anymore, and we need, this has been said by the presidents of the US and by the Chinese, we need a new world order. So I would like to stop here and say our hope for ending this chaos and ending this mess in the world where there is no system, no rule, no authority, no jurisdiction, no legitimacy, has to end, and hopefully very soon. Thank you very much.
5 years ago, you told people that AI was an enormous challenge and an enormous threat to the world. In the 5 years since you said that, do you feel better or worse about AI?
Are you talking about climate?
Sure.
Yes, I was commissioned by the United Nations in 1999, to write the first report on climate. And I led a commission representing all countries of the world, including the US, Australia, and everybody, for accountancy bodies. So you have the US CPA, the SPCA, SCCA, SCCI, etc., all the SCs of the accounting world. And we worked for 3 years and came up in 1999. I was commissioned in 1996, I'm sorry. And we presented this report at a meeting of the United Nations. And I presented the solutions, which were in fact based on the principle if there is no accountability, there is no management. You must have, in order to control anything, you must, or to manage it, you must be able to control it. So, and we set up some accounting rules for management of the climate change. The representative of the Secretary General came to me at the meeting and he said the US ambassador would like to attend. Although this is a technical meeting, he would like, and together with the British ambassador, and they were both great friends, and they would like to attend this important meeting. I said it's a great honor and pleasure to have them. Of course, it will add to the value of the meeting. The American ambassador was very clear, and he said that I now get a notice that my next question is on artificial intelligence. I will address it. But now I would like to end by saying the American ambassador, the ambassador of the US, said this is useless meeting unless it is approved by the market, the US market authorities, which is fine. Okay, it's a very intelligent statement. We waited until President Trump became president, and in his 2016 campaign, year 2016, in his campaign for presidency, he said climate change is a joke and a lie invented by the Chinese to destroy our industry. And I will not allow it to be discussed. President Biden said it more intelligently, and he said, of course climate is a challenge, but we must remember that we can do it and we should do it without damaging our industry. So it all comes to a conflict between the industrial resolution and the climate resolution. So we have to decide how to control the products of the industrial resolution as compared to the resolutions of climate control. I would close at that.
All right. I'm going to try the AI question one more time.
Okay.
So you told the world 5 years ago that you were very concerned about AI. I want to know if you feel you go.
I got it very well. Now, I will also send you my book on artificial intelligence. This is the first book ever in the world. Nobody has written on the subject. I have written a book, which fortunately is in English and in Arabic, and I will send it to you. And in this book, I insisted that artificial intelligence is a misnomer. It means nothing. When you tell me artificial intelligence, I don't understand anything. What it is actually is programming. It's proactive control computer programming. Artificial intelligence is equal to programming, which we understand. And programming is going to a development stage as technology moves only forward. So the next development in programming, computer programming, is what we call proactive programming. So this proactive program is what they call artificial intelligence. Now, artificial intelligence intends to make everything in the world programmed. So it will program everything in our life, and that's a great challenge. And because noting that when you program anything, it means it gives them the authority to operate So like the simplest example is a robot. If you program it for a robot, the robot will act on its own as per the program in it. Like also smart weapons. You put a program into a weapon, the weapon operates according to the program we put in it. Well, the risk is, unless we come up with two solutions, I am very concerned about the future of humanity. First, these programs can become self-development, which means if you make a machine intelligent, the intelligent machine will develop its own intelligence. And in fact, there is a group of experts who is trying to manage how to control the supremacy of robots over human beings, because they will be having the advantage of a computer program and computer capacity of data, big data, which the human being cannot have. And they have also the power of developing proactive, as I call it, proactive programs. And they will become out of control. So that is one. Second part is the actual social impact and fairness to human respect. Because through artificial intelligence, I can make anybody look like me. In fact, I've been asked by one of the major leaders of artificial intelligence to build a double of myself. So he will be not an imitation, it will be another human being who will not repeat my words, but he will say them in my same tone and language and contact and my thinking, which is very dangerous. So we'll be losing completely our privacy, our this fairness to each other. I think it's a huge subject that needs to be governed, and unfortunately, because we have no leadership, we are not able to establish a task force that would look at this issue.
So we've been very fortunate to have your time. We want to thank you on behalf of the Australian Lebanon Foundation. We want to thank you very much for making the time to sit down and via Zoom and satellite to talk to our guests here. 300 people in this room have listened to everything you've said, and we appreciate you pushing through the challenges. Thank you very much, sir, for your time this evening.
We can express the pleasure of doing two very important things. First of all, our gratitude, my personal gratitude, first of all, to you here. You have come here, and I know for a fact there is another 3 main functions for Lebanese community happening somewhere else. So your presence here to make a full room really touches our heart, and we are thankful for your support. I think you, the audience, deserve a clap, a big one. Thank you very much. And we also, big gratitude to our sponsors. Many of them have been yearly coming in and giving their support, and without them, obviously, we cannot do this. And the second thing besides gratitude is the pride to congratulate our young students, recipients of the scholarships, people who have strived and achieved excellence in academic, but young people who have also demonstrated strong ties to the community and strong involvement also in sports and other next to academic activities. So I'm going to ask Professor Fadia Hussein and ask Mr. Domit Azar to come here to the stage and stand in the center of the stage, please. And then I'm going to call the sponsor and ask them to go to the other side, and then the students to come to my side here. Can I please ask you to welcome and give a big hand to Mr. Peter Bader, Managing Director of Apollo Joinery, sponsorship recipients. scholarship sponsor, Mr. Peter Beder. And I would like to call Michael Bijani, who was in St. Patrick College and who is pursuing a master in pharmacy. Michael Bijani, please congratulate him. The Arab Bank of Australia has been many years faithful to this tradition of sponsoring scholarships with us. Please welcome Mr. Joe Zik, CEO of Arab Bank Australia, to the stage. Salim Shidia was in the School of St. Charbel. He is pursuing a Bachelor of Engineering, Bachelor of his art, history, and he's originally from Sharri, right? Right, originally from Sharri. Come on, Sharri. I also forgot to mention that Michael Bijani is partly from Kahale, partly from Tehran. Michael. And the Bank of Sydney also has been a regular supporter of us, and we are very thankful. I would like to call Mr. Melos Sulicic, CEO of Bank of Sydney, to come to the stage. Please welcome him, and big thank you. Can I please ask Matthew Nicholas to come to the stage? Matthew did his secondary in Trinity College. He is pursuing in Bachelor in Design and Architecture and Masters of Architecture. And although we'd like to say that he is from Hadass al-Jubbi, actually only his mother is from Hadass al-Jubbi and he is from Net. And we are all proud of him, both Hadass al-Jubbi and Net. Callington Mill Distillery also has been a regular sponsor. And while we don't have the honor of having John Ibrahim with us, I would like to call Salim and Danny Nicholas to the stage. Please welcome Salim and Danny and give them a big thank you for this sponsorship. After finishing her secondary studies at St. Mary's and pursuing now a bachelor also in a Bachelor in Design Architecture and Masters of Architecture, her parents come from Matrit in Lebanon. Please congratulate Angela Sassin. This year, the ALF has added a slightly different category of scholarship. It is granted to 2 people in Lebanon who are not here with us. So, the sponsor for this first scholarship is Hussein Group. You will know George Hussein. George, please join us here to the stage. This scholarship has been granted to Stephanie Harb, She's pursuing a marketing degree in the Lebanese International University, and she is from Russia, Losubshari. And the ALF decided also to be a sponsor, and a sponsorship has been also allocated to Marie-José Bouti, pursuing a marketing degree at the Lebanese International University, and she is from Arsha. Actually, Stephanie Harb is from Tanuri. I apologize for the previous one. So, big clap for the ALF. And I would like also to call quickly Mr. Bassam Aflaq, the director of E-Group, to receive our thankful appreciation. Beautiful second year event sponsorship, very generous, very generous. And can we please welcome Mr. Stephen Kalada, National Sales Manager of Fisher & Paykel, to come and receive a token of appreciation. Fisher & Paykel is a platinum sponsor of ours here. Can I please call Diala and or Jad Haber from My Garden Age Care, and you've seen the generous that they put for everybody else. A big thank you, ladies and gentlemen. These are our sponsors and our recipients of 2023 Australian Lebanon Foundation Scholarship. A special thank you to George Kuzami Group, who have been generous enough, not only by giving us great food, but who has also been a catering sponsor. Thank you very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests and families and recipients of the Australian Lebanese Foundation Scholarship. It is an honour and a privilege to address you all tonight, navigating through the topic of what makes education so significant for Lebanese students here in Australia. For generations, our Lebanon was considered a prospering haven of education, producing some of the brightest pioneering minds recognised internationally, some of which are with us here tonight, where Lebanese students around the world showed their remarkable resilience in the face of specific challenges. However, during the economic crisis and political unrest in Lebanon, many students faced difficulties that threatened their education, where hundreds of thousands of students have not attended class since October 2019. To combat this face-on, the Lebanese community did what they do best, assisting their people, finding creative solutions like crowdfunding campaigns and scholarships to continue their studies, where their determination to pursue knowledge in the midst of chaos is truly inspiring, a testimony to the Lebanese resilience, a quality us students here today not only admire, but more significantly attempt to mimic. Through these examples and many more, Lebanese students have demonstrated their unwavering persistence. They have proven that no matter the difficulties they face, they are determined to overcome them and achieve their goals. Their ability to adapt, persevere, and support one another is truly commendable, a commendation I extend to all the students being celebrated today. It is no simple feat to consistently display the aforementioned qualities throughout your schooling, and on these grounds I congratulate you all. Whilst giving thanks to all the parents, I acknowledge their pivotal role in ingraining the importance of education in their children, which gives us Australian Lebanese students our drive and passion. Education has become a highly valued means to overcome challenges and achieve personal and collective success. Education equips us individuals here today with the knowledge and skills needed for employment, enabling us to become active contributors towards our respective communities here in Australia. Through education, the Lebanese community around the world can embrace innovation, address societal issues, and create a brighter future. In closing, I would like to thank the Australian Lebanese Foundation and Professor Faja Hussain for organising such a prestigious event and encouraging further education. Thank you.
Stay. Come back. I'm going to acknowledge you. Everyone in the room, everyone on stage tonight got close, respectful attention for the room, but nobody more than this bloke, whose speech is absolutely outstanding. If you represent this team, and I know you do, we're all very encouraged by what lies ahead of us. Thank you to all four of you, and thank you for typifying the spirit of your peers. Thank you so much. We're very lucky to have him and his team. Folks, again, I'm going to stop talking and let you talk to your friends, your guests, to come and pat these people on the back and thank them and congratulate them for their achievements. I want to thank all the committee that made tonight possible. The room is full. You can't do better than 100% capacity. Fadia, Pierre, Dermot, Adela, especially Susie, who picks up all our mess. So much work goes into this. You don't fill a room like this with no work. Lots of work goes in. I thank the caterers again. I thank sponsors like ECAV and My Guardian and the team that did all the AV and PA tonight. If everything's worked well, it's because lots of people work very hard. They know who they are, but we should thank them. And other than that, folks, enjoy your dinner, enjoy your dessert, enjoy your coffee, and thank you for paying such close attention to our beautiful scholars. Thank you very much.